it's the people you need to sell to, regardless of if it's a big business. People run the business. You never thought I would talk about TV shows like this, but it's historically. I am a first draft girly. Kia ora, hello, my name is Sarita. I'm a writer from New Zealand, currently living in Canada, and this is my February recap. So I want to split this video into 4 categories, kind of related to my goal setting one. So I've got writing, reading, content, and life. I'll put all the timestamps down below. If you want to skip anything, feel free, and let's get into it. For writing, I'm currently working on a book that I'd like to query. My working title is Daughter of Ruin, or Daw. It is a fantasy novel inspired by Māori mythology, Māori culture being the indigenous culture of New Zealand, of which I am Māori. I just feel a connection to my culture, and I just really want to, I suppose, share that, you know? So with that in mind, the vibes of the story are there are gods and monsters and mythical creatures. There's elemental magic, which I am personally obsessed with. The story follows 2 sisters who were orphaned when they were younger. There is a few years between them, like not massively, but enough where they both experienced their childhood and now young adulthood in very different ways, and obviously have different responsibilities and perspectives on life and what they each should be doing personally. So that kind of comes into play in terms of relationships and conflict. As of yet, I haven't determined if I want it to be adult or young adult. I know so far that there are going to be like some, not gory, but like, what is the term? Harder hitting elements, but I'm not sure in terms of like whether it needs to be categorized as adult yet, if that makes sense. As of right now, I'm kind of just writing the story and I'll figure that out as I go. In terms of actual writing, I have done nothing. I mentioned in my goal setting video, I was on a massive slump since the start of the year. I did complete my goal last year was to complete outlining, which I did. I suppose it was kind of like the high of achieving that, and then it being the holidays, and then a lot of other stuff overwhelming me that I just reverted back to not doing anything. I got hung up on how to move forward, right? And so like historically, I am a first draft girly. So in school, at uni, when I did my bachelor's and my master's, I have always been like I'll get the research done, or most of the research, and then I'll just write, you know, like the night before your assignment's due, and just hand that in. Yeah, so I think for me it was overwhelming to think about actually writing like however many, like 90k words or whatever many I get to, and being like, holy shit, how do I do that, you know? So instead I started looking at other author tubers, like writing process videos, and I actually went back to someone who I was watching like years ago, Lindsay Puckett's writing process, or her drafting process. I realized I was looking at my writing process as a whole rather than draft 1 as like a section of my usual process. Once I realized in my head that I didn't have to have it perfectly fleshed out by the end of it, mentally understanding that, or is it psychological, I don't know, understanding that for me helped realize that, oh, I can just go in and write an entire draft. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's only one section. It's not hand in ready, if that makes sense. It sounds so stupid now that I say this out loud, but like for me, I was struggling. I just needed to get words on the page. Say like my husband picked the story up and he read my first draft. He would, even though it's like not necessarily like well written, he would understand every single plot, every single thing that's happening from start to finish without needing to ask questions. So that's kind of the stance I've taken with this, and since then managed to like blast out, like, I don't know if this is a lot to be fair, but I blasted out like 800 words in like half an hour, which for me was just great because I just hadn't been doing anything for so long. And so yeah, I feel like I have the drive again, like it's come back to me, you know, so I'm very happy about that. That was a very long-winded update, so sorry. Moving on. Reading. Not much reading has been going on, at least not much reading of books. Reading of subtitles has been happening. I fell down the rabbit hole of K-dramas and haven't come back. In the last couple of weeks, I've watched like 4 different K-drama shows. I am obsessed. And I cannot get enough of them. Here's the thing. Western romances I find cringy. Like, I just find that westernized romance movies I can't watch or I don't have an interest in watching, because it just like, it's not that it gives me the ick, but it kind of like, I just feel like, ugh. I don't know what it is about K-dramas at the moment, because I haven't really watched any other Asian ones, but they're so like over dramatized in a way, and they like focus on certain like angles of like the couple, and like you just see like there could be like a scene and there's not even talking, but you see so much emotion on their faces. It honestly feels to me like it feels like my romance books that I like to read have like come to life on screen, you know? So yeah, I'm obsessed and I love it. And also they're not all like happily ever afters, which is tragically terrifying to me, because I only read happy ending romances, but the stories, some of them are just so good. That's what I've been doing. I'm going to do a really quick recap of the 4 that I have watched. I've written a like blurb about them on the screen so I don't get them wrong. So Destined with You is about a lawyer bound by a centuries old curse who becomes entangled with a civil servant or like a council worker who inherits a book of spells, which starts a very slow burn romance that's like giving Hermione vibes. It is a happily ever after, but there is a tragic backstory which like wrecked me. Like it wrecked me when I watched it, and I was like, ah. But it was still okay because, of course, there's still a happily ever after, you know? So, love that one. I would rewatch it. My Name, which is a revenge drama. It was heavy on the gore and like the fighting, with a like blink and you might miss it romance. It was cool. Like I like the Korean revenge dramas. I've also watched The Glory. That is like top tier. Like I will recommend that to anyone. But yeah, it's a tragic kind of bittersweet ending, I would say. My favorite. My favorite is Mr. Plankton. The vibes are fucking immaculate. I will not lie. Right off the bat, this is not a spoiler, right off the bat you find out that the male lead is terminally ill, and as like a last adventure he decides to kidnap his ex-girlfriend to accompany him. But like I think what makes it is like their chemistry is fucking amazing. Like it's top tier. It's just a good like story, regardless of like, even without the romance, like the story itself, I just found it super entertaining. The entire story is so well written. I loved like every single character, which I don't really watch TV shows normally. Like I don't like how Western TV shows always end on a cliffhanger, because like they want you to keep watching. Like that's literally the point of doing a TV show. So I love how like Mr. Plankton's, the entire story is resolved, and it fucking wrecked me. It wrecked me, while also I just felt so many emotions watching it. Every single character is great. Like they all have like their own little arc. They get to like shine on the screen. Like I never thought I would talk about TV shows like this, but it's my favorite. I would 10 out of 10 recommend, with the preface that it is a bittersweet ending. It is something that I would still rewatch, and just like, spoiler, stop at like 5 minutes before the end if I want like my happy ending. The last one that I literally just finished watching yesterday, Nevertheless, which it was good. It was a different vibe. It's a happily ever after, which is actually why I watched it, because I didn't really want to go through like the angst and like heartbreak. Basically, I just didn't want to go through the heartbreak of like some of the others that I've watched. There is a happily ever after. The guy is a low-key fuckboy who's obsessed with the female lead. He manages to convince her to like start a situationship, and yeah, it's set in like an art uni or college, I don't know what they call them. Definitely Hermione vibes, and it's cool. And I liked the friend group. Here we go. The friend group I really loved too. A good like palette cleanser while still giving like the angsty kind of romance vibes, if that makes sense. Those are the 4 shows that I watched and read subtitles of. I did also get 2 books. I got this one, The Antique Hunter's Death on the Red Sea by C.L. Miller. This is actually her second book of this one, and I really love this. Oh god, I keep bumping the screen. It's like National Treasure vibes, but British and like kooky, cozy mystery type thing. So I got this one because it just came out recently. I'm so happy because I love a murder mystery. And then the other one I got, ADHD for Smartass Women, How to Fall in Love with Your Neurodivergent Brain by Tracy Otsuka. Yeah, she is also diagnosed with ADHD. This one is specifically for women. And I think the thing that really sold me was some of the comments on the back, helping you to discover like life-changing strategies for like finding focus, using nutrition to curb some symptoms, improving sleep, regulating emotions, succeeding at work. Like These are all things that I have been struggling with recently. So yeah, I just want to obviously learn more, like I said in my goal setting video. That is all for reading. I will move on to content. So what I want to do with this like content slash, well, this creator kind of category is I want to track what I'm spending on, what is that? Want to track kind of expenses that I spend on this hobby, other things related to this channel. So it will have a expense slash budget component and then also a marketing component where I want to start little discussions on marketing and how it can relate to current marketing trends or like trends that have happened in the past, and see how things that brands or individuals or companies have done and how it can translate into like publishing or being like an author or like your own personal brand. So let's get into it. For expenses, it's a short one. I spent 19 Canadian dollars on Canva Pro, and I also spent $7.53 Canadian on Obsidian Sync, which I did just cancel because I don't need to use the software across multiple devices anymore. The total for the month was $26.53, which not bad. Onto the fun part. For marketing, I mentioned I've gone down a rabbit hole into the Korean entertainment industry. What I notice is like it's intriguing how the actors or actresses and the idols all manage their personal brands. Like obviously they are huge, and so they most likely have teams or people managing a lot of their stuff. A lot of the things that they do, like social media, collaborations to promote like their shows or music, Q&A sessions, interviews, that sort of thing. Like those are all things that when you think about it, smaller creators also do, right? Like collaborations and Q&A videos, that type of thing. So like people do that at a smaller scale. What I think is important to note is like they manage to mix like the promotional material with personality of the individual or the group that they have, right? That's always something important to remember with marketing, is like we are all humans. We market to humans. A lot of people feel emotions at different levels, of course, but at the end of the day, I do personally think that like people crave connection. It's the people you need to sell to, regardless of if it's a big business. People run the business, you know? It's just knowing how to connect with them. So my point with all of this, I wanted to talk about touch points and how they come together to create like your brand or your personal like brand or like image, right? In terms of touch points, like we can use my love of Mr. Plankton as an example. So I really love the show. I wanted to see what other work that the two leads had been in, right? And so I looked them up online and saw that the female lead had actually been in Squid Game. And when I looked at her role, I realized that she was one of my favorite characters from the season 1. Those are two different touch points, right? Like touch point 1, Mr. Plankton, loving her performance on there. This like increases interest, and so I looked her up online, looked at her other stuff, realized that she was in Squid Game. Touch point 2. These two things are like plus points. They kind of like add to the image that I have of her as an actress, and so it builds my positive impression of her builds because I've seen her in this show, loved her in this show, looked her up to see what other stuff she's on, loved her in this show, and everything is a pathway. And I suppose my point is to consider the different touch points that you as a brand may have in obviously your digital space, but also considering like your traditional channels as well. For example, if we think about being an author and having a book in a bookstore, right? Like as a new reader going into a bookstore, the first thing I'm going to look for is like going into like my favorite genres. And so if your book is in someone's favorite genre area, the thing that's going to stand out is the cover and the spine, depending on how they've shelved it. So you're very limited on like shelf presence, right? That's your main product selling, but then you also have other options of how you encourage people. So I know like you've probably seen many people promoting things on social media, obviously BookTok, Instagram Reels, even YouTube Shorts, like using digital channels to promote your stuff to go into store. They're all different touch points, and every time you have a positive touch point experience with a reader or a potential reader, like your audience, that's another checkbox on like their recall of you. And it may even be that it takes a while until they connect all these different touch points of positive experiences with the fact that it's your name on that book. Where am I going with that? I think the point of that whole discussion is that whether you're trying to sell your personal brand, sell a product, or sell a service, it's important to consider every touch point that you have with your target audience and making sure that they're really like solidified to work for you, if that makes sense. I love talking about marketing. I can ramble on, but I'd love to know what you think about the entire like touchpoint thing, and building a personal brand. If you have any questions, or like what do you think about the direction that like marketing's going at the moment? Because I know like personally I think like community and connection my throat. Personally I think that whoa, what are your thoughts on that? I would be curious to know. I love to yarn about marketing. That's why I work in marketing. Let me know what you think about that. If you've got any thoughts on it, love to chat about it. So yeah, let's move on, because I don't know if that was interesting for you. Life lately is very short. Life has been overtaken by K-dramas lately. To be fair, like it's the usual like work during the week, take the kids to their sports, do Pilates, like relax on the weekend. Like honestly, I'm pretty like boring. I just, like my unwind time. It feels like there's no time for anything else. I do want to start incorporating writing in my evenings after the kids go to bed. So hopefully I can progress with that a bit further. It's warming up. Sorry, this is a really boring life update. Maybe I should just cull this category. Anyway, let's move on. That was a very long recap video, I'm sure. What have you been reading lately? How's your writing going? If you're a writer, I'd love to chat about it in the comments below. Love a good chat. But yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.